So I sent myself an email with a link to the St. Louis Federal Reserve website. What is the M2 money stock chart as defined by the Federal Reserve? What is it's called the velocity of M2 money stock. What is it? Date range 1959 to 2015. Last updated June 24th, 2015. Notes. Calculated as the ratio of quarterly nominal GDP to the quarterly average of M2 money stock. The velocity of money is the frequency at which one unit of currency is used to purchase domestically produced goods and services within a given period of time. In other words, it is the number of times $1 is spent to buy goods and services per unit of time. If the velocity of money is increasing, then more transactions are occurring between individuals in an economy. The frequency of currency exchange can be used to determine the velocity of a given component of the money supply, providing some insight into whether consumers and businesses are saving or spending their money. So a nice, healthy economy, like we've been preached about all these last several years, this chart should go up. But I'm looking at it, not going up. It looks sick. It looks very sick, to tell you the truth. From 1960, got a little bit of this action, 1980, 1990 to 2000, dot-com bubble burst, goes back down. Starts to build up again, 2008. And since 2008, it has almost been in free fall. Literally. The chart I'm looking at, M2, velocity of money, from 2008 until present, is literally falling off a cliff. It's not down, it is going like down. Just looks sick. Domestically produced goods, money being spent on those. Not looking real healthy now, is it? So I sent myself this just to talk about this. I was just going to focus on this on Thursday, 25th of June here, 2015. As you can see, it's Sunday evening. I haven't got around to it. But been reading about from Zero Hedge and SilverDoctors.com about the issue happening in Greece right now. And as it stands, apparently, stock market for Greece is not open for business tomorrow. They don't want a destruction event to happen. Stock market is closed. By the way, the banks are also closed on Monday, and some will be closed. Last two different sources I read, maybe closed for the entire week. So I decided earlier today, and it was painful. Oh, it pains me to even say this. But I had to take one for the team, you guys. So I did it. Turn on the TV, CNN first. I know, positive, there's going to be breaking news about Greece. The stock market's not opening. There's massive lines, ATMs running out of ATM machines running out of money. People lined up since 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. Being told now the banks are going to be closed on Monday. Bank holiday. We predicted that would happen, didn't we? And the market's going to be closed. Not ours, but Greece's. Surely this is important news. Nope. They're hunting for, or were hunting for some guy, broke out of prison, him and his buddy. Well, maybe they're going to, they go take little breaks. So I'll keep. You know what I'll do? I told myself, I'll go to Fox News. I'm going to go to Fox News and flip back and forth. One of these places has got to have this story about what the hell's happening in the Eurozone right now, specifically with Greece. This is huge. Fox News. Hillary Clinton's presidential chances, what the Democrats should be doing. They're talking about Obamacare. Some of the Republicans are going to come out and tell how they're going to try to reverse Obamacare, but some of that stuff they're not going to want to change. Talking heads, expert. I'm an expert. Nothing about the Eurozone, huh? Sunday night, Armageddon for Greece, literally. Could be tomorrow. Which technically is actually the 30th, so 2 more days, because that's when the final agreement was supposed to have been met, and if nothing happens by that date, it's definitely a default. But, today's the 28th. So, I flip back to CNN. There's nothing. I flip back to Fox News, same garbage. I see a little blurb down by the little ticker at the bottom. Oh, Greece. What's that? Greece what? Payment to IMF, $1.8 billion payment due to IMF on Tuesday. Okay, yeah. And they can't make it. Whoa. That's all? A payment is due? That's your news? A payment is due to the IMF by Tuesday. Well, that's the Thursday, right? That's the 30th, the final day. Default day. Doomsday for Greece. Financially speaking. So, I've just been bouncing around my own website. I can only take about 15 minutes. And I flip back and forth one final time. CNN, not breaking news, but high alert for American citizens coming up on 4th of July. Well, we've got an expert that says that ISIS and terror groups may strike in the United States to be prepared. You can't fool me. You can't fool me when I've already said when they've run out of games and cards to play with the finances and the economy, they, like Gerald Celente always says, they take you to war. They always take us to war. There's always an enemy ready. Always. There will be no coincidence when that happens here shortly. So they have this guy who I'm watching his eyes. I don't care what he looks like, I'm listening to what he's saying, but I'm watching his eyes. Because he's supposed to be reporting to them as an expert. And I can tell by the look of his eyes, he is reading some type of teleprompter. So he can't even give you the news. And this is some expert, not a normal person. We just got this expert, former CIA agent, whatever his name is, now owns his own intelligence company, privately owned. United States, highest paid, more spending on intelligence and defense budget than the whole world combined. Supposedly, and arguably, have the best resources in the world. Best tools, so to speak, to use. Former CIA agent opens his own private intelligence agency. Kind of like the other one, Site Intelligence Group. Rita, what's her name? Rita Kratz or Kritz or something, whatever her last name is, Ritz. All these ISIS beheading fake Hollywood style videos came from her. Only side on the face of the earth who presented that to the whole world. No one else can get it. Best intelligence agency, trillions of dollars spent all these years. She can produce them every time. She gets them every time. So that caught my eye. Here's another guy, I never heard of him, former CIA agent. I said, what kind of propaganda are we about to get? I had to tune in on that. I went ahead and recorded it just in case. I thought about taking a little video camera out there and showing you the TV while I played it back and then putting it in here. I don't have time for that. I just screw it. It's still recorded though on my TV. But yeah, 4th of July. These groups like to strike on known holidays. Like for example, the 7/7 London bombings. That's coming up soon. So yeah, we're on high alert. We're expecting the potential for that, and they're gearing you up so that when it happens, and they're the ones that will make it happen like they always do, these intelligence groups, you won't question it. You'll believe Al-Qaeda, ISIS, ISIL, Schmozo, Schmizis, whatever, did it, and you're pissed off at them. Now go join them. Go join the military to defend your country because you're upset. Just like what happened on 9/11. Boy, did they have the massive turnout of young kids to throw over there in that desert. So, been checking my own news sources recently today. to see what's going on with Greece, keep up with that. And I find this really good article from Silver Doctors, issued today. Red alert issued for the last 6 months of 2015. I'm thinking, yeah, I kind of felt that way, not necessarily the 6 months, but more importantly, the Lindsay Williams time frame of approximately September through the rest of the year, December. So September, October, November, December, 3 months, etc. So he says, red alert issued for the last 6 months of 2015, posted by the doc. This is like nothing we've ever done before. And he mentions quite a bit of stuff. And I'm going to repeat it because it is important. And he covers everything that one should cover. I thought we did a real good job with this. It definitely needs to be repeated. This is important. Ever since I started the Economic Collapse blog, and this is from the Economic Collapse blog on his site he's linking to, I have never issued any kind of red alert for any specific period of time. As an attorney, I was trained to be level-headed and to only come to conclusions that were warranted by the evidence. No emotions, right? So this is not something that I'm doing lightly. Based on the information that I've received, things that I have been told, and thousands of hours of research that have gone into the publication of more than 1,300 articles about our ongoing economic collapse, I have come to the conclusion that a major financial collapse is imminent. Therefore, I'm issuing a red alert for the last 6 months of 2015. To clarify, when I say imminent, I do not mean that it will happen within the next 48 hours. And I'm not saying that our problems will be over once we get to the end of 2015. In fact, I believe the truth is that our problems will only be just beginning as we enter 2016. I will strongly agree to that. What I'm attempting to communicate is that we are right at the door of... I had to tab out of there. We are right at the door of a major turning point. About this time of the year back in 2008, my wife and I went to visit her parents. As we sat in their living room, I explained to them that we were on the verge of a major financial crisis, and of course the events that happened a few months later showed that I was right on the money. This is funny because I feel like I could say the same thing to my sister and some family right now, exactly as he just said it. This may be why it's hitting home with me so much, but he goes on through a lot more that's important. This time around, I wish that I could visit the living rooms of all of my readers and explain to them why we are on the verge of another major financial crisis. Unfortunately, that's not possible, but hopefully this article will suffice. Please share it with your friends and your family and anyone else that you want to warn about what is coming, which is why I'm doing this video and we'll be reading everything he's presented because he just gave us all permission. Let's start with a little discussion about the U.S. economy. Most of the time, when I use the term economic collapse, what most people are actually thinking of is a financial collapse. And we will talk about the imminent financial collapse later in this article. But just because stocks have recently been hitting all-time record highs does not mean that the overall economy has been doing well, as I just explained by the M2 money velocity chart. It looks terrible. This is a theme that I have hammered on over and over again. It is my contention that we are in the midst of a long-term economic collapse that has been happening for many years, that is happening as you read this article, and that will greatly accelerate over the coming months. Let me give you one quick example. When an economy is healthy, money tends to circulate fairly rapidly. I buy something from you, you then take that money and buy something from someone else, etc. In a stable and growing economy, people generally feel good about things that they are not afraid to spend. But during hard times, the exact opposite happens. That is why the velocity of money almost always slows down during a recession, as you can see from the chart below, which is the one I just talked to you about. And as you can see from the chart below, the velocity of money has indeed gone downward during every recession since 1960. Once a recession is over, the velocity of money is supposed to go back up. But a funny thing happened after the last recession ended, 2008 one we're talking about. The velocity of money continued to go down, and it has now hit an all-time record low like ever. That's how low it is. This is the kind of chart that you would expect from a very sick economy. And without a doubt, our economy is sick. Even the official government numbers paint a picture of an economy that is deeply troubled. Corporate profits have declined for 2 quarters in a row. U.S. exports plunged by 7.6% during the first quarter of 2015. U.S. GDP contracted by 0.7% during the first quarter, and factory orders have declined year over year for 6 months in a row. If the stock market was connected to reality, it would be going down, but instead it has just kept going up. As Lindsey Williams said it would, because that's what the elite told them they were going to do to pull every last sucker back in before they collapse it, coming up soon. But instead it has just kept going up. As I discussed yesterday in this classic, this is a classic case of an irrational financial bubble. If I was writing an economic textbook and I wanted to include an example of what a run-up to a major financial crash looks like, it would be hard to come up with anything more ideal than what I have watched unfold over the last 6 months. Just because every pattern that has popped up prior to previous stock market crashes is happening again. And this is something that I have written about so much that many of my readers are sick of it. And without a doubt, our financial markets are primed for a crash. Only 2 times before has the S&P 500 been up more than 200% over a 6-year time frame. The first was 1929. You know what happened with that stock market crash. And the stock market subsequently crashed afterwards. The second was in 2000, right before the dot-com bubble burst. Same thing. And by just about any measure that you can possibly imagine, stocks are massively overvalued right now once again. For instance, just check out the chart posted below. It comes from Doug Short, and it shows the ratio of corporate equity prices to GDP has only been higher 1 time since 1950. That was also in 2000 before the stock tech bubble burst. Let's look at another chart. This one comes from Phoenix Capital Research, and it shows that the CAPE ratio, which is cyclically adjusted price to earnings ratio, has rarely been higher. In fact, the only times that it has been higher, we have seen stock market crashes immediately afterwards. Another chart, different one. Yale economics professor Robert Shiller is also deeply concerned about the CAPE ratio. Quote, "I think that compared with history, U.S. stocks are overvalued. One way to assess this is by looking at the CAPE ratio that I created with John Campbell, now at Harvard 25 years ago. The ratio is defined as the real stock price using the S&P Composite Stock Price Index deflated by the CPI, divided by the 10-year average of real earnings per share. We have found this ratio to be a good predictor of subsequent stock market returns, especially over the long run. The CAPE ratio has recently been around 27, which is quite high by U.S. historical standards. The only other times it has been that high or higher were in 1929, 2000, 2007-8 crash, and moments before, all moments before stock market crashes. And it's there again. What do you think is going to happen here shortly? Other valuation indicators produce similar results. This next chart, etc., is another one. Same thing. Different chart, different data, shows the same type of outcome. I'm going to scroll through some of this because there's quite each shows chart after chart after chart, different ones. They're all showing the same stuff. A crash is coming soon. So are you getting the picture, he says. And as I discussed yesterday, the smart money is beginning to pull their money out of stocks while they still can. And according to USA Today, mutual fund investors have pulled more money out of stocks than they have put into stocks for 16 weeks in a row. Since late February, U.S. stock funds have suffered estimated outflows of nearly $55 billion. And isn't it just almost hilarious, as I did the video the other day? Jamie Dimon, through the Bloomberg article, announces he's now a billionaire Welcome to the Billionaires Club, Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase. Oh, and by the way, according to the article, most of his wealth was gained because of the stocks, the shares he had in JP Morgan. Now, as a person who reads that article, a sheep who reads that article, I'm going to say, I'm going to do what he does. Do what they do. If you want to make money, you got to do what these guys do. He's a clear winner. He's now a billionaire. He wasn't before. And then the article went on to say, 125 million of his $500 million worth of shares in the company was gained this year alone. That's like a 20% increase in 2015 alone. I got to call my broker now and get on some of that stock. And as I said in the video, I'll say it again because it's relevant right here, right now. It was done by design. Let me read that to you again. Mutual fund investors have pulled more money out, sold off stocks, than they have put into stocks for 16 weeks in a row. So the smart money is exiting the market while the dumb money, i.e. you and me and the sheep supposedly, are entering the market. Why did JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon have to announce that? So that he would have an influx of sheeple to go and buy the shares of his company so he could exit his position, take the cash, sell the stock at an all-time high without really affecting the price of the stock because you're going to have an influx of buyers while he's selling tons of his stocks, his shares. So buyers coming in, himself selling to all of the ones more than they ever wanted. Stock price of JP Morgan stays relatively stable. It doesn't go down because there's too much selling by him. No. Plenty of people buying and him selling. And you mean to tell me he did this just now recently when you and I know what's coming in September and October, November, December? Not on your life was that a coincidence. Completely relevant to what I just read you now, isn't it? But it isn't just stocks that are going to crash during the next financial crisis. Bonds are going to crash as well. But what I am concerned about most of all are derivatives. Derivatives are going to play a starring role in the next major financial crisis. Now, where did I hear to pay attention to the word derivatives over and over and over again, almost as many times as I heard the term, do you have your paper and pencils ready? Get ready to write this down. Oh, Lindsey Williams. They told him, Lindsey, the market is going to rise after this 2008 crash. It's going to rise more. It'll keep rising. When you think it won't rise higher, it'll keep going. When there's no reason for it to go, it will go even higher. And when you think it's still done, it will go even higher. And we're doing this to pull every last sucker back in before we really pull the rug out of the market and clean them out. And it's going to be related to derivatives that does this. That's what they told him. Derivatives. He said, I didn't even know what a derivatives was when he first told me this. I had to go find out. Here it is. Have you heard that word lately? Credit default swaps? Those are supposedly insurance contracts on derivatives. So you go belly up because you couldn't pay on those derivatives contracts that someone lost a bet on because they're so massively leveraged, your company's gone. Oh, not yet. You're not gone yet. File your claim for your credit default swaps you took out with another too big to fail bank. They'll pay you this massive amount of money so that you can stay afloat, right? Well, no, they don't have the money either. So they'll trigger their credit default swaps with another person. That's all it's going to happen. As soon as this goes down, because it's not just one entity had Greek debt, let's say, and now it blew up and the derivatives crisis hits starting with Greece. Financial institutions all over the place had Greek debt. So when those derivatives blow up and they say, okay, well, I've got insurance on these contracts, so I'm cool, they're going to find out whoever was writing you those contracts didn't have the money either. And then what? Well, then you got a problem. It's called daisy chain reaction. Failure after failure. Not good. So, for much more on the coming derivatives crisis, please see my previous article entitled Warren Buffett, Derivatives Are Still Weapons of Mass Destruction and Are Likely to Cause Big Trouble. Of course, I am not the only one that is sounding the alarm about what is coming. Just consider what some very prominent individuals have been saying recently, starting with Ron Paul, who's in his news released video, he warns us all to prepare for a bear market in bonds. Carl Icahn says the financial markets are extremely overheated, especially high-yield bonds. Max Kaiser recently told Alex Jones that a great financial collapse is coming. Martin Armstrong says that his economic confidence model, which is amazing, by the way, predicts that the Big Bang, so to speak, is coming in 2015.75, which translates to, you guessed it, September timeframe starting point 2015. Once again. Jeff Berwick of the Dollar Vigilante says we're getting very, very close to the next crisis collapse. And he is specifically pointing to the month of September. James Howard Kunstler has predicted that stocks are going to, quote, crater in quarter 3 this year as faith in paper and pixels erodes. Lindsey Williams, he even mentions Lindsey, recently sent out an email alert in which he warned that his elite friend told him that, quote, they have a worldwide financial collapse scheduled between September and the end of 2015. Gerald Celente also has warned about the great panic of what he's calling the great panic of 2015. Bill Fleckenstein has said that 2015 could be the year of the big accident. Ray Gano has stated that we will see a financial collapse probably starting in the third quarter of 2015. Legendary investor Jim Rogers recently said that he believes that, quote, we will see some kind of major problems in the world financial markets within the next year or two. Not sure when he made that quote, doesn't say, but I'm sure it was sometimes recently. Alex Jones recently released a video in which he explained that he recently received 2 different calls from extremely prominent wealthy people warning him about what was coming by the end of this year and asking him why he isn't leaving the United States before October. And then Bible prophecy expert Joel C. Rosenberg has posted an ominous message on his personal blog in which he warned that something is coming and that we must be ready. So here's some time frames. Late June, early July, it is expected that this is when the Supreme Court will reveal their gay marriage decision. Most believe the court will rule that gay marriage is a constitutional right in all 50 states, and so far, I believe that has just happened. There are some that believe this will be a major turning point for our nation. July 15th to September 15th, a realistic military exercise known as Jade Helm will be conducted by the U.S. Army. More than 1,000 members of the U.S. military will take place in this exercise. The list of states slated to be involved in these drills include Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, California, Mississippi, and Florida. July 28th. On May 28th, Reuters, this is an interesting one for me. I don't recall this. On May 28th, Reuters reported that countries in the European Union were being given a 2-month deadline. Or maybe, I don't know if I did a video on this, to tell you the truth. I can't remember. European Union countries were being given a 2-month deadline. So May, June, July, right? July 28th is the end of that deadline, to enact what they call bail-in legislation. Not bail out, bail in. What is bail in? They're going to use your money, not the government's money this time, which was your money, technically speaking, for future taxpayers, but now they're going right into your bank account. And the way they'll do that is whatever the FDIC insurance limit is, oh, you have above that, it's gone. You just got bailed in. Well, not you. The bank just got bailed in thanks to you. Now, here's the interesting thing. Let's say you had $1 million. Right, just going to throw this out there. You got $1 million in your account. You're a moron because you don't have it split apart in different accounts with even different banks so that you're safely secured with the, I think it's $250,000 FDIC insurance. So you're a bozo and you leave it in there, and this happens. Up $250,000 of your $1 million is safe. It's secure, right? What about my $750,000, $750,000? Where'd that go? Well, that's gone because it was above the FDIC insurance, and it's gone. Well, but hold on. You used it to bail in this particular bank, correct? Well, yeah, of course. Yes, that's exactly what happened. So where are my shares or ownership of that bank my money just got given to? You don't get anything. the money's gone. You get nothing. The bank gets to stay afloat and gets to continue making more money thanks to you. If you are a bozo and you've got money that is not covered by FDIC insurance, you're a bozo. Having said that, technically speaking, there's only a maximum of somewhere around $500 billion that the FDIC insurance could ever get its hands on, period. And that's through an emergency lending window from the Treasury, only under the most dire situation. There are trillions of dollars in the banking system from depositors. So only $500 billion can be touched, or the maximum that the FDIC insurance could have to hand out to people basically in an emergency, such as the banking system failing and you trying to pull all your money out. And the banks go bust. Now you might make a good argument and say, well, if that was the case, so that the government doesn't have people wanting to kill them, they'll probably just extend that window and make it something else and print the money. And that would be a good argument, and that could be a possibility. But not before the damage is done and the faith in the system is broken and the price of precious metals go through the roof. Now, where was I? July 28th. Given a 2-month deadline, European Union member states giving a 2-month deadline to enact bail-in legislation. Any nation that does not have bail-in legislation in place by that time will face legal action from the European Commission. So why is the European Union in such a rush to get this done? Are the top dogs in the EU anticipating that another great financial crisis is about to happen? And this is the way we are going to deal with it, so you better get on the page. And if you don't, in these next 2 months, you're going to be legal action will take against you. I don't know how much. There is so much writing on the wall if you drove by, figuratively speaking. It would look like a massive giant wall of graffiti. Little analogy. That's how much writing is on the wall and has been on the wall for a time now. A good period of time. So when this happens, and it's going to happen, you better have your silver, your food storage, and your stuff in place before that time. And I gotta say, the time is ticking. September 13th. This is Elul 29 on the biblical calendar, the last day of the Shemitah year. Many are concerned about this date because we have seen giant stock market crashes on the last day of the previous 2 Shemitah cycles. September 17th, 2001, which was Elul 29. We witnessed the greatest one-day stock market crash in U.S. history up until that time. The Dow plummeted 684 points, and it was a record that held for exactly 7 years until the end of the next Shemitah cycle, which you know from 2007-2008. On September 29th, 2008, which was also Elul 29, the Dow fell by an astounding 777 points, which still today remains the largest one-day stock market crash of all time. Now we are approaching the end of another Shemitah cycle year. So will the stock market crash on September 13th, 2015? Well, no, because that day is a Sunday. So I guarantee that the stock market will not crash on that particular day. But as Jonathan Kahn, the one who talks about the cycle, has pointed out in his book, sometimes stock market crashes happen just before the end of the Shemitah year, and sometimes they happen just a few weeks after the end of the Shemitah, which is true. I have his book. I read it. It's true. So we are not just looking at one particular date. However, it's going to be a very narrow window. Now we are approaching the end of another Shemitah year. Actually, wrong paragraph. September 15th, 2 days later, the 70th session of the UN General Assembly begins on this date. It is being reported that France plans to introduce a resolution which will give formal UN Security Council recognition to a Palestinian state. Oh, Israel's not going to like that. Up until now, the United States has always been the one blocking such a resolution, but Barack Obama is indicating that things may be much different this time around. And considering that we have to have this war with Israel and the Middle East and all that has to happen in World War III that could potentially start, there's a real strong possibility of that happening. And I can only sit here and think about a web bot report. Matter of fact, it was more than one, but one in particular. Don't remember which one now because it was a few years back. That talked about this war that happens in the Middle East with Israel and Iran. And whether it was U.S./Israeli forces or just Israeli forces, whatever it was, whatever that attacking force was against Iran, which appeared to be Iran, the force or defensive force of Iran was, what was the word they used? Basically, shockingly intense. Weren't quite expecting them to be that powerful as a defense. Let's put it that way. And I do recall that from the webbot, long time ago. And as I'm watching them bozo news today, talking about Iran, nuclear state, it's going to be a big discussion. We could Iran, and I've been hearing John McCain's fat mouth since at least 2006. 2006, 9 years ago. They've had the ability to enrich nuclear weapons for a long time now. If they wanted to hurt us, they would have done it. So, September 25th to the 27th, the United Nations is going to launch a brand new sustainable development agenda for the entire planet. Some have called this Agenda 21 on steroids, but this new agenda is not just about the environment. It also includes provisions regarding economics, agriculture, education, and gender equality. On September 25th, the Pope will travel to New York to give a major speech kicking off the UN conference where this new agenda will be unveiled. September 28th. This is the date for the last of the 4 blood moons that fall on biblical festival dates during 2014 and 2015. This blood moon falls on the very first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. It will be a supermoon, and it will actually be visible in the city of Jerusalem, interestingly enough. There are many that dismiss the blood moon phenomenon, but we have seen similar patterns before. For example, a pattern of eclipses happened just before and just after the destruction of the Jewish temple by the Romans in 70 AD. In addition to everything above, quite a number of economic cycle theories that were developed by secular economists all point to big trouble for America between the years of 2015 and 2020. For more on this, please see my previous article entitled, If Economic Cycle Theorists Are Correct, 2015 to 2020 will be pure hell for the U.S. Earlier today, I publicly announced that I was issuing a red alert for the last 6 months of 2015 on the Alex Jones radio show. You can watch video of that interview right here. In this article, which is about 3 times as long as one of my normal articles, I've only shared a small fraction of the information that has led me to issue this red alert. But if you want to know more and you are not afraid to really go down the rabbit hole, I would encourage you to check out a full 2-hour presentation that I did down in Texas, Dallas, Texas, on the nightmarish years that are coming. You can read this at silverdoctors.com. Red alert issued for the last 6 months of 2015. Search for that in Google, /space Silver Doctors, and this site will come up, and then you can find all these links. The period of relative stability that we have been enjoying, believe it or not, is ending. What comes next is going to lead us into the worst period of time in modern American history. I wish that I was wrong about this. But the goal is not to scare you. My wife and I live our lives with absolutely no fear. And that is my desire for all of my readers. There is hope in understanding what is happening, and there is hope in getting prepared. Personally, my wife and I believe the greatest chapters of our lives are ahead of us, and I hope that you have a similar outlook. We need a generation of people that are willing to rise up and do great things, even in the midst of all the chaos and darkness that is coming. It is when times are the darkest that the greatest heroes are needed. So what will you choose to do when the next crisis comes? Will you cower in fear, or will you rise up to meet the challenge? Fantastic article. Couldn't agree with it more.